Hi
Nice.
everyone. So Peter and I have known each other for over 20 years. I spent the last 17 years in California working out there, and then when I moved back to Colorado, I got reunited with all of my friends and family, and Peter took a fine look at what I was doing and noticed that I was kind of not doing so well, doing lack of sleep, and I was stressed out and everything along those lines. And so he suggested that I try CBD, which I hadn't ever done before. And so I tried it, and it immediately helped with my sleep, my stress, my anxiety, and my pain. And to the point where I can't go without it. I literally hunt Peter down. If I can't find him, I track him down wherever he is to get more of it.
And Ryan,
It's absolutely amazing on what it does for the sleep for me. I take it 30 minutes before I go to bed, and it calms me down. It gives me a level playing field, and then I'm able to relax and go to sleep.
and what
Uh,
exactly is your diagnosis, Ryan? I know there was a period where you believed you had CMT because it pretty.
yeah, for a long period of time, basically since I was 19, thought that I had CMT. Um, and it turns out that I have pole G. That's in it's POLG. And the pole G is presenting as CMT.
So
So
yeah,
that's what I have.
understand. So very similar symptoms as far as fatigue, weakness,
Yeah, I also have a mitochondria deficiency, so I'm extremely tired all the time. I get weak towards the end of the day, as I'm sure a lot of you all do as well.
yeah. I know that's a very common symptom of CMT, and maybe our attendees now and our listeners can share in the chat if you feel comfortable about what are the symptoms that you're currently struggling with right now that you hope could potentially be improved with something like CBD or some other type of management. So we'd love to kind of get your personal experiences. And in the meantime, Peter, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about, you gave this, so you suggested Ryan take the CBD. You guys are friends. You saw he was struggling with a lot of these symptoms. You started getting this feedback from him about how his sleep was improving and his pain levels. What's what then happened to make you make that jump into starting your own CBD business, brands, products?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending. We're happy to have you all here. Um, yeah, I was an attorney and I had a lot of, I ended up having, I'm in Colorado and ended up having some clients that I was doing business for who had extraction facilities and some other business things in the marijuana industry. And then the Farm Bill was passed in 2018, and all of a sudden, all these CBD extraction facilities came up, and I started doing work for them. And my family had some farmland out in Kansas, and I had my first experience with CBD through one of the extractors that I was an attorney for. I had ended up on antidepressants just due to anxiety. I had just short of it like a family. I don't practice family law, but I took on a pro bono family law case. It happened to be a very intense case that ended up on the news. One of the kids died during the case. It was a complete crazy thing, but my anxiety was getting so bad that doctors were just like, you got to take antidepressants. And I was like, well, I'm not depressed. And they were like, but this will help with your anxiety. And I was like, okay, I wasn't sleeping. I was having issues. I played a lot of basketball. I was having a lot of pain issues. And I got introduced to CBD and it worked for me, like pain, sleep, anxiety, my life kind of changed. So that's kind of what got me. I said, hey, we should grow this stuff because I think it's the real deal. I had gotten into health and nutrition. I had been into it for about 5 or 6 years prior to this. A lot of the people that I listen to on podcasts and books I read and stuff like that were getting into CBD. So we did not grow it with the intention of actually starting a CBD company. We were just going to farm it, and then we had contracts where we were going to sell the CBD out. And the market changed overnight to where we just ended up with all this biomass of CBD and nowhere to sell it. And so we decided to extract some of it, bottle it, and then give it to people and see how it worked for them because we were entertaining the idea. And at the time, I had partnered with a bioscience company out of Boulder. And I was up meeting with them, and we had been kind of giving out bottles of CBD, and they were the ones that really turned me on to. They said, there's a lot of science and studies going on in the neurodegenerative type of area. And Ryan had just moved back into town. And I was like, oh, I got to go give this to Ryan. He's been having problems sleeping and all these other things. Gave it to him. It really worked for him. So he and I met and I said, hey, listen, I'll shut down my law practice like overnight. We'll start a company. We really believe in this product. It's worked for so many people that we've been giving it to. And our idea was, let's go to CMT and let's start there in terms of having a company, and let's donate back. So you'll see when I open up my presentation of PowerPoint slides, we just essentially sat down in a room and said, when if we can help people get healthy and change their lives, when if we can donate and raise funds for CMT, and then a when if we can grow our business. And it was in that order that kind of happened.
Yeah, you guys found the sweet spot. I love that. So we have a few people here sharing in the comment section some of their symptoms: pain, numbness, tension in their feet, foot, toes curling, stress, pain, fatigue, a decrease in focus, muscle pain, stress, anxiety, sleep pain, pain in glutes from hamstrings, tendons, sleeping difficulties, stress, fatigue. So a lot of overlapping challenges there. So maybe Peter, you can take us a little bit deeper into the science of, CBD for some of these symptoms, because I know this is not something that's just pulled out of thin air. There's a lot of science backing up the benefits and the power of CBD.
Yeah, I have a PowerPoint presentation if you want me to open that up and
Yeah,
we can kind of go through and okay.
sure.
Let's see, do I just share my screen?
You should be able to, yeah.
Okay.
And in the meantime, if anybody has any questions that they want to have, make sure that we answer today, feel free to drop those in the chat as they pop in your head. I know there's a lot of information here on this topic, but
Okay. Is my screen popping up?
yes.
Okay. All right. So to kind of stick to the format that we had given you for tonight, it's about CBD. Here's the structure of it. And here's what the plant looks like. It looks exactly like a marijuana plant, and we'll talk about that. They're different, but they look the exact same. They smell the exact same. You wouldn't know the difference from looking at them or smelling them. We kind of just went over our about us, so we won't really talk about that here. But that was our mission when we started, was just win, 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 and we were doing it with a CMT in mind. So what is CBD? There's a picture of me out by one of our plants. This is a CBD plant. It's just plant medicine essentially. So, we take this plant and we take the CBD out of it. CBD is short for cannabidiol. It's a naturally occurring substance in the plant. It's more than one of 120 compounds that they've identified called phytocannabinoids. And it's been consumed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. As far back as history can find, we've been consuming this plant. And you've probably heard of THC, which is tetrahydrocannabinol, and that is a photocannabinoid responsible for the intoxicating effects that you will have in marijuana. So they're different from the standpoint of CBD gets you quote unquote high. CBD does not. It doesn't have those same effects. It's impossible to talk about CBD without talking about terpenes. Over the years, people hear all sorts of things like eat your fruits and vegetables because they help prevent cancer. They help all sorts of other health ailments, and a lot of that they are finding, comes back to terpenes. These are some of the common ones that are in CBD. The effects of terpenes can be relaxing and stimulant. So we'll talk a little bit on the CBD side about how it can help you sleep, or it can actually give you some energy. But some of that, the terpenes are involved in some of those. And when you think terpenes, I just say think smell: black pepper, cloves, oregano, blueberries, lemons, oranges. They're all full of terpenes. So it's in a lot of the stuff that we eat, but the CBD plant is chock full of these terpenes when you have a full spectrum product, which we'll talk about as well. Psychoactive, this is something that we've kind of run into in some of our presentations before, because there's arguments about this, but by definition, it is technically psychoactive, because anything that alters the brain function and has like anti-anxiety, antidepressant type of qualities to it, it gets thrown in the psychoactive. But don't let that make you think that it like will get you high. It is much more of a subtle supplement, as opposed to drinking a beer, a glass of wine, a shot of whiskey, a smoke of marijuana. And I refer to marijuana as the THC stuff, and then I just refer to CBD as CBD. Another big one we get, and you can get duped in this into stores, because there've been people that have been selling hemp oil that they've been trying to disguise as CBD oil. It's all over Amazon. It's in a lot of different stores. They mark up the price to make people think they're getting like CBD, but it is a completely different thing. It's not even the same seed. That's two completely different seeds, and they are not the same. So one of the things to look for, when you're buying an oil, is hemp oil is like more of a fatty acid, or like hemp hearts with like protein and stuff like that. It's the same hemp plant, but it's completely different seed, and it has no THC in it whatsoever. So it's something we always talk about, because it gets brought up a lot, and people text me and call me and ask questions, and they think they're taking CBD when they're actually have just bought high-priced hemp oil. Legality, the Farm Bill made it legal. We get a lot of questions about the legality of it. I don't go into a whole lot of that. It is legal in all 50 states. Federal law made it that way. The states are able to regulate it from a standpoint of like age restrictions. I think Virginia might have been the last one that was like saying you had to have a medical license to use CBD, and I'm pretty sure that went away. So for the most part, there's not really any legal issues with this. We had somebody flying the other day, and we had to pull up the TSA regulations on CBD, and it's completely legal to fly with, completely legal to ship. It's legal. So I don't spend a whole lot of time in it, but the key to that is when we grow the CBD, it has less than 0.3% THC in it. So it's not enough to get you high. It is a trace amount of THC that can be in there, and it has to be below that 0.3% threshold. And for people who are flying that have that question, because it's come up multiple times for us, if you have the bottle, and one thing that can happen is like airports, sometimes they have dogs that are sniffing for drugs. Not all the time, more so on international type flights, but it's possible the dog can smell your bag and go, oh, they bark and say there's something going on here, like there's drugs or something. And because they're not going to know the difference in smell between CBD versus marijuana. And as long as the bottle says it on it, which like our bottle that says, it's pretty clear that it's CBD and it's not marijuana. But also like an easy thing to do, if you have a phone, you say, it's Organileaf Farms. You can go to our website. We have a certificate on there showing that it's less than 0.3% THC. So for travelers, we get that a lot. We just got that 2 days ago. Okay, so going into the benefits, I'm going to go through these really quick, because it's kind of amazing in terms of all of the studies that have been done with CBD. And they will do a study looking for one thing, and they'll actually find out something else that it does. And I say this, there's a lot of studies done, and I'm going to say two things about it. Is one, from an efficacy standpoint, in terms of how well it performs, it's actually through the roof in terms of every study they do. there's like 6 to 7 out of 10 people that have an effect or they feel what the study is for. So whether it's for getting off an antidepressant, whether it's to fight addiction, whether it's to reduce stress, whether it's to get better sleep, it's actually insane how many studies have really good efficacy. Now, point number two to that is take it with a grain of salt, because marijuana is still considered a Schedule One drug. So when it comes to the billions of dollars that universities and other institutions get for funding, they shy away from doing some of your more controlled double-blind placebo studies, things that would take a drug all the way through like an FDA approval process, which means nothing to me after you get into this, understanding how some of these pharmaceutical drugs get out there. Some of them have very low efficacy, and it's more of a money thing that gets them through than anything else. But for some drugs, it's $1 billion and 10 years before a drug gets put on market. You can fast track that stuff, and there's other things that go on. But I always say take all studies with a grain of salt, especially with CBD, because a lot of them are done internationally, and then a lot of the ones that are done here are not done in the quote unquote settings that would be considered top notch for studies. But there are so many of them that, especially for the supplement industry, a lot of supplements are not FDA regulated. It outperforms pretty much every other supplement I've ever seen. Actually, I can say that with 100% certainty. I've been reading these for almost 15 years now. I go to PubMed. Our board members are 2 doctors, and they are actually baffled by the efficacy that these seem to show in a lot of these studies. But is it possible it can do all these things? So far, it seems to be the case, because they just keep finding out more and more stuff about it that's better, and it does this, and it also does this. And I'm going to shy away from the term homeostasis at this point in time, but I'm going to talk about it later, because most CBD presentations, I hear people use the word homeostasis about 5,000 times, so I'm going to try and not do that. And I'm going to go through a lot of this fairly quickly, just because there's a lot of it. So it's like, here's another list of the benefits. Some of those were on the previous page: antidepressant, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, antibacterial, lots and lots of stuff there. All of these slides I've put on here have between 10 to 40, sometimes 50 studies behind them for each one of these slides. And I'm not going to go through them word for word, but it started, I use this as the first slide because Charlotte's Web was really the first big CBD company, because of a girl named Charlotte who was having seizures, started using their CBD, and she stopped having her seizures as frequently, and it extended her life years, because she was having a lot of seizures every day, and then she started taking CBD and she stopped having them as often. I mean, literally, I think there was a point where she was able to go almost a whole month without a seizure, when she was having upwards of 5 or 6 a day. So seizures were one of the first things that really brought the spotlight to CBD through that company, Charlotte's Web. Of course, it got screwed up by the government, in my opinion. They came in and made Epidiolex, which is a synthetic CBD. It's only CBD. Charlotte was taking a full spectrum CBD. They come in and monopolize the market, and now the only thing that's FDA approved is their Epidiolex for CBD, which is just criminal in my opinion, but that's what happened. Anxiety disorders, study after study. I put some of them on here. If I were to open up my web browser and go to PubMed, I could pull up hundreds of these studies that have been done around the world. I just throw this slide up here to show that it's pretty much in all of these studies that's shown to work for a lot of people. Depression, once again, tons of studies they've done, 198 people, 20 people, 14 people. There's more studies if you go to PubMed. That's just it's more and more and more. Every one you pull up simply ends up having like decent results, which is crazy. Chronic pain, this is a big one for CMT people. They've done a lot of studies on pain, and CBD has had a very good effect on pain. Ryan and I have been able to get, I think, 2 CMT people off of opioids. We have one guy who is almost off pain medication completely from taking some pretty serious, I think he was taking Oxy. And then we had some other people that were just using more Tylenol, Aleve type stuff, completely get off of it. So we've had some good success with chronic pain. I can speak to that myself. I had chronic pain, and it has helped me like immensely when it comes to that. And when I get to the chronic pain side, I more or less like to talk about um, if you can find a natural solution to your pain problem, go for it. If you're in such pain that you have to take pain medicine, I always say stay comfortable is kind of like where I am, like live comfortably as opposed to being in pain all the time. But if you saw what pain pills do to your stomach and your kidneys, I've seen cadavers and I've seen stomachs from people who have taken pain pills for long periods of time. And the stomach compared to a regular stomach, they don't even, you would not even think this one was a stomach versus this one. So, and also when it comes to pain stuff, the stomach is the first thing to kind of get disrupted, and then the kidneys are the second thing, and it does go to the liver and start affecting all sorts of different parts of the body. But it creates a cycle where the second that it wears off, now your body goes into a more of an inflammatory response because now you've done damage. Your gut's damaged, it's not working properly. Your kidneys are not working properly. So your body goes into chaos mode. And the only thing that stops that is more pain medication to get the inflammation back down and get everything. So you get stuck in a cycle with pain medicine. So that's one of the things Ryan and I talked about was, man, if we could get people kind of off of this, it would really help, less, we don't like my mom was having to do this, and I was like, I just hate to see her hasten her demise, as she gets older in terms of this. My dad works at skilled nursing facilities now as a doctor. He's 80, he's gonna be 84 years old, and he's still working. And he says pain pills are like one of the worst things that kill more patients and put more people in bad situations at end of life than anything else. Arthritis, quick story here. Guy that is a uncle of my cousin's wife, connect the dots there, was about to stop playing golf, and we went out and played with him a couple of times, and I gave him some CBD about 20 minutes before we teed off. He could not hold the golf club. He said he has really hard problems, and he was kind of doing it with one hand, two hands. Within 20 minutes, he could grip the club, and he is still playing golf to this day and swears that CBD is the reason he has to take it every time before he goes and plays golf. You can literally see the swelling go down on his hands. It's kind of crazy. Sleep disorders. This is a huge one. This is the one that started with Ryan. Sleep is like what I call the best medicine. When you're able to get a full night's rest and get a deep REM sleep, you set yourself up the next day for less pain, for a whole lot of other things, especially with any type of neurodegenerative disorder. There are different cycles in your REM sleep where, like, you have memories that are going to be a part of that, so you can have memory. If we didn't sleep, we would actually struggle as humans to even have a memory. So that's a cycle of our sleep that we have that puts memories into our brain. There's another one where all of our neurological aspects of our body start to become healed. So sleep is like a super important thing. So for Ryan in particular, was not sleeping. The second we got him to sleep, all of a sudden things started changing. His mood was better. He was feeling less pain the next day. So it was more of a, it wasn't so much like, some of it was the CBD for the pain and things like that, which I'll talk about later, but it was partly just, we finally got him sleeping through the night. And once he started sleeping through the night, it changed his next day immensely, energy wise, pain wise. If he doesn't sleep, he struggles really badly. And there's a lot of new studies out on CBD where you can actually increase your REM sleep. I did some Oura Ring stuff about 6 years ago, and I doubled my REM sleep on CBD, and the studies keep coming out on sleep and CBD. It's really good for REM sleep. Neurodegenerative disorders, they've done a ton with this. A lot of it has been with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and MS. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but this is an area where they were really working with CBD and its neuroprotective effects, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But it's done really well in this area. blood pressure, cardiovascular health, studies, lots of studies. I'm not going to go into all of it. Skin disorders. There's been a lot of people who have cleared skin disorders with this, which is wild. I actually noticed a skin improvement myself from shaving. I used to get a bad razor burn when I'm using CBD. It's definitely less, which um, that happened right when I started using CBD. So I was like, well, that's pretty amazing. Maybe yeah, I guess it's got to be the CBD. But there's reasons for this as well, which we'll kind of go over. Digestive disorders, it's shown to be really good for your gut. So it's something that helps you with pain and inflammation, but it actually helps your gut and it helps you with digestive disorders. So that's the opposite of what Aleve and Tylenol, Oxy, this is the complete opposite of what they do to your stomach. This actually helps your stomach. They've got all sorts of different studies out there about people having um, their gut getting better from using CBD. And there's some good Crohn's disease ones with. And if you know anybody with Crohn's disease, those people really struggle to try and figure out how to manage cancer. There's a bunch of stuff about cancer.
One quick thing I want to say, going back to the last slide, CBD and uh pain pills. CBD won't make you constipated. That's one of the biggest issues that a lot of people with CMT have and they struggle with. And CBD will not make you constipated. It's one of the best things ever. Sorry, I just wanted to jump in and say that real quick.
No, jump in whenever. Um, I'm just shooting through here. And I'm going to try and be quick because I know it's 5:30 already. So I'm going to go fast if you guys don't mind, because I want to make sure we have time for questions and answers. And there's some other stuff that is kind of important. But yeah, that's huge. My dad deals with that now too, so that's huge. See, cancer, drug addiction, it's really helped with that as well. I just put this on here because these are just studies. I mean, I've just got study after study. I went through last night. We talked with Estella last night, and I was like, I'm just going to go through a bunch of these studies that I found and just start like listing them out, just to show that they're there. Diabetes, it's helped with blood sugar levels, migraines. There's some people that have had extreme success that have chronic migraine issues. Psychosis, there's people that have had mental health issues that it's helped with. Autism, um, this is another one where they've kind of had some success with autism, and I actually ended up doing a deep dive in this for ADD because ADHD both run in my family. I have it, my brother has it, my sons both have it, my nephew has it. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's like it just runs in my family. So my son is 11 years old, and his mom's a nurse practitioner as well, and the teachers and her, I could not fight the battle to keep him off of medication. They just wanted to give him medication. So he ends up on Ritalin. And then we ended up switching that. And then we ended up on another one. And those are essentially amphetamines. And for those of you, I'll just give you a quick thing of how that works is when you have ADHD, your dopamine levels get really low when you're sitting in a room and you're not active. So an amphetamine, it stimulates a bunch of stuff in your brain, and it raises your dopamine levels, and it can literally make a kid with ADHD kind of drool in class or be just kind of tired. Whereas if you don't have that and you take it, you're going to be bouncing off the walls. So you know immediately whether you have ADHD or ADD if you take a stimulant and it makes you tired versus bouncing you off the walls. I fought this battle for a while. Finally, based on a lot of things that were happening, I got them to say, okay, we'll take them off. We're not going to have them be on Adderall and Ritalin anymore. We're going to get them off. And then literally that was over Christmas break, and you can see the date of this email. Sorry, I tried to cross off some stuff. So this is January 10th, 2025. I had just gotten him off of it, convinced his mom to let me give him CBD. And this is the first week I was giving him CBD before school. This is what his teacher wrote. So I just like to point that out because it's like, there's my 11-year-old taking CBD right there. He all of a sudden was doing better at school. It's got workout benefits. This is huge. I like this a lot. there's a lot of athletes that are moving to this. Charlotte's Web's actually sponsoring Major League Baseball at this point. There's a lot of baseball players that are starting to use this as well. So it's working its way into the sports world. CBD and obesity, that goes back to some of the blood sugar stuff that we found with CBD. CBD and brown fat, there's a really interesting study on that. I just throw this in there because it's like they just keep finding study after study, crazy stuff. Multiple sclerosis, they've had a lot of really good studies with multiple sclerosis and CBD as well, helping those people. Asthma, I can speak to this one. I have allergies to dogs. We had 3 dogs. If I touch a dog and touch my eye, it's still going to itch no matter what. Once I started taking CBD, I had to get an inhaler because my allergies got so bad I had problems breathing. Once I started taking CBD, that stopped. My asthma from dogs went away, and the roof of my mouth used to itch and my throat used to itch, and all of a sudden that went away. Now, if I touch them and touch my eye, that still is there 100%, but the roof of my mouth itching, my breathing and stuff went away. It's crazy. Bone health, this was another crazy one. They're using this a lot now for cancer patients, but it has really shown to make your bones better as well, which is just, then they started to find this bone study out a long time ago when they were studying something else. It was like kind of they figured it out on the side that these people's bones were actually starting to be stronger and sturdier. COVID-19, this was a really interesting one, and I'm just going to highlight the CBDA on the the CBDA down here. I guess I can't touch this with my mouse, but CBDA, this stands for an acid that was preserved during the extraction process, and I'm going to talk about that later. But patients with COVID had a way lower response in their lungs to COVID in multiple different studies. Benefits for pets, awesome. Humans, really hard to do studies on. What's your pain threshold, 1 to 10? Okay, I'm at a 7, I'm at a 6. It's hard to know with humans. Humans are difficult to do studies on. Anybody that's ever done one, the parameters, the variables, everything that you set up is really hard. Dogs are awesome because they can't talk, they can't report to you. You don't have to ask them any questions. Our dog at end of life on the couch for 2 weeks whimpering. We knew we had to put her down. We were trying to not do it because anybody who has a dog, it's like the hardest thing. It's like, you got to do it, but you try and wait as long as possible. And I was like, let's give her some CBD and see if that helps with the pain. Dog hadn't got off the couch in 2 weeks. We were pretty much having to carry her outside to go to the bathroom. All of a sudden, we wake up one night and the dog has come up the stairs. After 2 days after starting to give CBD, comes up the stairs. Next day goes on a walk. So dogs are really insane because they don't have to report to you. You just see if it works or not. Same exact thing happened to my niece and her dog. I was like, give CBD, end of life, give CBD. Same thing happened. Wasn't moving, wouldn't go up and down stairs. Next thing you know, was going up and down stairs and went on walks all the way up until we had to put both of those dogs down. This is just a little newspaper clip that was in the Denver Post recently. Ryan and I are both grads of Colorado State University, and they have a really good agricultural program as well as a veterinary program, one of the best in the country. I was up there doing seed work and then also got to visit with the vet clinic about CBD, and the lady who runs that had started a lot of her studies about 5 years ago when I was up there, and this was just in the paper, and she has had tremendous results with what she's been doing for pets, which has been really interesting. I got a message from Angie after we knew we were having this meeting, so I knew I had to throw this in there. But for nausea, once again, you see the CBDA attached there, which we'll talk about. It's found to be really helpful for people with nausea all over the place. There's multiple studies on that. So to talk about CBD, it's like, how does it do all this stuff? We all have an endocannabinoid system, and it is like directly embedded in your like central nervous system. It's a part of every single thing in your body. And you just have 2 receptors, CB1 and CB2. I don't get into the scientific-y stuff of it because it's too much to handle, but we have this system in our bodies. And CBD essentially provides like, it's hard for me to explain exactly how it works in the body because there's a lot of doctors that'll argue about how it works in the body. But essentially, you're supporting the system, and this system is in charge of balancing your body. You have tons of, if I could just draw wires all over this body, especially in the brain, everything is with like neurons and all sorts of stuff is talking in your body. CBD supports this endocannabinoid system, which is kind of like everything's talking to everything to make sure that we are in homeostasis, the word that I'm trying not to use too much. Like there's your neuron, there's an immune cell. You have these receptors and the cannabinoids go in between. Our bodies produce endocannabinoids on their own. Cannabinoids are called that because they're similar in structure, but they're a little bit different. So they're not the exact same as what's in your body, but that's actually a good thing because in the supplement industry, if you go into the part of the section that has like anxiety relief, you'll see GABA and you'll see like 5-HTP1. You'll see all these like things that are exactly what your body produces. And there is absolutely zero evidence that if you take that, it actually makes your body produce GABA or produce serotonin or produce dopamine. So it's actually a good thing that they're not the exact same as the endocannabinoids that our bodies produce. So this, I kind of just went over that. It helps increase this right over here, this anandamide. Domide is the endocannabinoid our body produces. We produce two of them. That's the big one, and it's just kind of a modulator for all of that stuff. The way I talk about it is it's just you have all these ships floating around in your body, and now they're all talking to each other properly. One of the things I always talk about with CMT is oxidative stress because any neurological condition or any a condition with the endocannabinoid system can be associated with disease. So we kind of have a theory going. My dad and our two board members who are both doctors, just if you want to know a little bit more about me, all I do every week is read PubMed stuff and talk with two doctors about it. And then have them go read. All we do is go back and forth research and talk about this stuff. It's kind of my life. When it comes to anything neurodegenerative, oxidative stress is a real big one that we've identified. And essentially what that is, you get a free radical, which you see over there in the red, that goes and bounces around your body and just kind of, it can eat up tissue. It tears up anything. If you get too many of those free radicals going around, it really causes a lot of damage in your body. Antioxidants have a different electron where they can just suck up these free radicals. So they're not just ravaging around in your body. So it's something that's super important for, homeostasis, the word, and for a lot of other functions in your body. Because if you have too many of these free radicals floating around, like you're going to get sick or diseased at some point. Okay, so there's a big stigma around this. And so I always have to talk about this. The history of this whole thing, the Boggs Act of 1951. So I believe this is the book I got all this information from, but I read this so many years ago. Don't kill me if this isn't the book, but essentially they set out to make sure that marijuana was a Schedule I drug, and they wanted evidence that it was bad for you. Essentially what happened was they went out and started researching it and came back and said, we have more evidence that this is healthy and good for you than is bad for you. And they, behind closed doors, were like, okay, no, let's call it a gateway drug and say it's addictive. So I'll just tell you right now, marijuana is not a gateway drug. Alcohol is a gateway drug. Okay. There's nobody that smokes marijuana and then all of a sudden is like, yeah, now I want to do cocaine and heroin and all this other stuff. But you get somebody drunk and their shirt might be off and they might be taking whatever you put in front of their face. So alcohol is a drug. Alcohol is a gateway drug. Marijuana is not. But they made this term for us, talking about its addictiveness and it being a gateway drug, and put it in the Schedule I category, even though nobody's ever died from an overdose of marijuana ever. And it's in the Schedule I. It's still Schedule I. That's all very suspect. But I like to kind of talk about the history, and that's kind of the source of the stigma. Is we were told it was like this addictive bad thing, and it was a gateway drug to more addictive drugs. Oh yeah, so it's such a bad thing, and all this stuff is happening. And let me see here. I got it to. I'm just gonna escape. So it's like this really bad thing. Are any of these? Okay, so marijuana is this like really bad thing. And we found out that there was an endocannabinoid system. My dad went to Georgetown Medical School, Georgetown Law School, and had no idea there was an endocannabinoid system until the 90s, later in the 90s. So while they were studying marijuana, and who was the first person to go out and take a patent on it? It was the United States government. Goes out, they've been telling us this stuff is bad all the time. And then they find that if you read here, it's got all these antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties, helps autoimmune diseases. They've known for a very long time. So I like to just show this because it's like, okay, what are we doing? This patent was applied for in the 90s. I think they got it in 2001 is when they got the patent. So we're like 24 years later, and they're still not giving us FDA approval and doing more research and putting more funds towards this. But yet they're going out and they're applying for their own patents. And then essentially what they did was GW Pharmaceuticals was one of the companies that ended up getting involved with Epidiolex. And they kind of did that outside the government because that would be weird for the government to go operate its own company, right? And make money off of this stuff. So, okay. So, I'd like to show that. Okay, supplement industry. This is where I just have to tell everybody I've been reading and immersed in this stuff for the better part of like 15 years. I lost like 50 pounds and found myself spending all my free time studying supplements and the body and all sorts of different things. So I like to just throw this out there that it is a money maker. Literally at one point in time last year, I haven't checked it out for this year yet, but they had estimated that somewhere around close to 80% of the supplements on the market weren't even what they said they were. So like to think multivitamin, think anything that you see in a supplement store, if you were to actually go out and third party test that, almost 8 out of 10 of those bottles were not even what they said they were at a huge markup price. But outside of that, when you look at supplements, I'm poking fun at this commercial right now just because this is Dookie Howser. I don't know how old people are, but when I was a kid, this guy was a kid actor, and I think what's his name, Neil Patrick Harris or something now, or not now, but that's been his name. So he costs money, right? He doesn't do an ad for free. He costs money. This is a coffee that has mushrooms in it, right? Adaptogens. I have not actually looked at the list, but it's typically like reishi, lion's mane, shiitake, maitake, some form of that. So they've got lots of mushrooms in it. I actually take mushrooms. I have nothing against them. They're adaptogens. I think they're good. I think they're actually healthy for you. I think they do help your immunity and a lot of other things. But in terms of efficacy, in terms of their claims and like, let's take a study and go see if this really helps people prevent from getting sick and all that. It's over here, like in terms of like not a whole lot of evidence to support anything they do. But guess what? These companies have so much money, they can afford this guy, they can afford ads at primetime TV. On the other hand, CBD, we can't sell it on Amazon. I can't market it on Instagram. I can't do anything with it on Facebook. Study after study after study after study after study shows way more benefit. Like this stuff will not get you off an antidepressant. This stuff will not cure your pain problems. It might help. It might be a nice thing to put into your diet. But I personally, like, I grow my own mushrooms. My sister does. So that's why I take them. I get them for free. Like, I don't spend money on them. I would never, the markup on these is absolutely ridiculous. Most supplements out there, and I just like to bring awareness to that I've been behind the scenes of retailers, retail stores, and a lot of other things. The markup is insanity in terms of how much they cost for them to make a lot of this stuff and then for what they sell it for. And then when you look, if you go really study it in terms of what it's supposed to produce for your body, they cannot really prove a whole lot. Like it has some benefits. And actually, I should have put more slides here. I just made this one up myself. This is just Peter talking, but this is me doing 10 years of reading, talking to 2 doctors, reading, talking to 2 doctors. So I just like everybody to know that. Beware of the supplement industry. Okay, so we got to talk about, and I'm sorry, I apologize, Estelle. You can stop me since I know we're at 5:45, so I know this was supposed to go for an hour, so I want to leave time for questions and answers.
How many slides are left?
I'll go real quick. So
okay.
full spectrum, broad spectrum versus isolate CBD. Full spectrum is just the whole plant, so we extract it. We don't do anything to it. Broad spectrum is we take the THC and we remove it. CBD isolate is where everything gets removed except for the CBD. I only recommend full spectrum, but if you can fail a drug test on full spectrum, I never have, but some other people have. Got trace amounts of THC in it, not enough to get you high, like I said earlier, but full spectrum is the only way to go for me. When I start to see studies that just look at broad spectrum and CBD isolate, the previous slide I showed you, this right here starts to go down and gets way more scattered anytime you start going down into the broad spectrum and the CBD isolate. So full spectrum, it just has all of these. It's got CBD, which is what the main thing is in it, but then it's got CBD, CBN. These are all just other cannabinoids that are also in the plant. Also, one thing to know is once you go to broad spectrum, and especially when you go to isolate, you lose the terpenes because it's not water soluble. So when you emulsify it and go through this process, you're going to lose a lot of the other parts of the plant as that happens. Consumption methods, you got sublingual, you can take it through pills, ingestion, you can smoke it, or you can put it on as a topical, which is pretty easy. Bioavailability is huge when it comes to this, and we get a lot of questions and talk a lot about this. We only go with the sublingual just because it's got the best bioavailability outside of smoking it, just because it's hard to package it and sell it for smoking. Plus, most people don't want to do that. But bioavailability wise, it's really important to note that if you take a gummy, it better have a ton of CBD in it. Otherwise, you're not really getting a whole lot out of that gummy. Nano CBD, I always bring this up, use with caution. In fact, I would say do not buy nano CBD. If you start to study nano, you're literally there's no reason to put CBD just for a bioavailability purpose in your body at such a small amount. Okay. So it's littler than your cells. And there is this nano stuff, it exists a lot in the supplement industry, which is a money-making industry. And we have no long-term really studies like 20, 30, 40 years, what these nanoparticles do after a long period of time. It may be healthy, it may not, but I wouldn't take the risk. But there's companies out there that do nano, and you're going to get the full bioavailability of whatever CBD product that is. Transdermal patches, that's another one. These can be really good. I use these with caution. One of our board members he was a plastic surgeon at Children's Hospital, but he's one of those big brain guys. He was actually hanging out with Stephen Hawking before Stephen Hawking died, and he was the first person to ever do a successful surgery on a baby who was born without its skull. Essentially, its brain was out in the open. He made national news back in the 80s because he was able to save this kid's life, and it was the first time that had ever happened. And when you hear him talk about skin and how it protects the body, you get a way different outlook on patches and putting creams and stuff on your skin, especially anything that breaks the skin blood barrier. Your body does not like that. But at the same time, patches are great. And if you can do a patch over taking some other form of painkiller, go with the patch 100% of the time. You also have gums, nasal sprays, drinks. Those a lot of times I would not ever use any of those for the most part, unless you just have money to burn. Extraction methods, there's ethanol and CO2. Big thing here is you just want to make sure that when you buy CBD, you check their certificates to make sure there's no solvents. CO2 is the best. And ethanol is okay, but there can be a lot of residue left over from the ethanol if they don't do it correctly. But when you do this extraction process, that's where you either get really good CBD or bad CBD. Dosage, that's something we'll talk about. Probably questions and answers, but this is always a difficult one. One of the things we do know is 100 to 300 milligrams seems to really hit your REM for sleep. For other people, a little bit of it peps you up and gives you energy, and then a lot of it kind of makes you more tired. CBD safety, I don't spend a whole lot of time on this because after reading about it, there's so few side effects that I don't even like. If there's a side effect from taking a tincture, it's probably from the MCT oil, which is the delivery system, than it is the CBD. It's almost like people have to fight to find side effects for CBD in a study. When they do list them, sometimes they're just kind of saying, well, somebody kind of reported this or kind of reported that. There's really just Side effects are little to none. It is totally safe. So choosing the right CBD, this is the crazy part. I just went to the store yesterday to get this slide for you guys because I wanted to see what was in the store. This is a company called CV Sciences, one of the bigger ones in the country. And right here, they have a full spectrum 15 milligram capsule that you take. Okay. So just to break down the math, we talked about bioavailability. 15 milligrams, let's say, we'll give it 25% bioavailability. I can guarantee you it's not 25% bioavailable, but I'm gonna be fair. So you're getting all of 3.75 milligrams of CBD when you take one of these. At $40.49 plus tax is what you just spent. So 30 servings of 3.75 milligrams of CBD. Not what we're looking for when we're trying to use CBD. So in that whole bottle, you get 112 milligrams for $40 essentially. So when you're going out and you're shopping, it's like, oh, okay, this one's less expensive than like the Charlotte Web guys or those Organileaf guys or whatever. But is it even good CBD? So this is a full spectrum. This is what's called a certificate of analysis. Okay. It has no CBDA, which I referenced a few times. This is the acid of CBD. None of it. This means non-detectable over here. It doesn't even have it. It has no CBG, CBN, CBC. It literally is non-detectable, and they're calling it full spectrum. Okay, so that's on the shelf as full spectrum. That's a big company, a very big company, one of the top 10 biggest in the country. They sell tons of CBD, and it ticks me off because it gives CBD a bad name because they heard that it helps you with nausea. Oh, we know it's the CBDA that helps you with that. Oh, wait, their full spectrum has none of it in there. So you just spent $40. You just wasted $40 essentially, but it might look like a good deal because it may look cheaper than some other CBD that you see out there, but bad deal. Okay. So I put a picture of ours here. So you get 33 milligrams per serving, and I'm going 50% bioavailability. I've seen upwards of 60 with tinctures. It can go lower. It could maybe be 40. It's hard to know. It's like impossible to know exactly what the bioavailability is. But here, at least, you're getting 16.65 milligrams a serving if it's a 50%. So at a price of $69, now you're getting 500 milligrams. You're getting 400 milligrams more CBD. So when you do the math, which I did today, we would essentially charge $300 to their 40 for this bottle. So you're paying $30 more, but you're getting a $270 value in terms of just milligram amount. But wait, there's more. Once again, I just have to show you this because it's of utmost importance for anybody that ever wants to go do CBD. Here's our COA. Okay. So we have tons of CBDA in ours. We have CBD. We have CBN in ours. We have CBG in ours. We have CBC in ours. We actually have CBC acid in ours. This is full spectrum. We did it very delicately. This is a Rolls Royce versus the used 30-year-old whatever car you want to pick in terms of certificates of analysis. This is actually real CBD, and it's going to have terpenes in it. So these are of utmost importance to read when you are purchasing CBD, and it's the one thing that I would say really gives CBD a bad name is people are just buying bad CBD left and right. It's out there, it's everywhere, and it's horrible. So with that, I will. Oh, you know what I'll do real quick? I'll show you. I just wanted to show a couple of other COAs. Charlotte's Web's a great company. I really respect them. This is their certificate of analysis. Theirs is also good. Theirs and ours are pretty similar. They have CBDA, they have CBD, they have CBG, they have CBN, they have CBC, kind of like ours. Ours is a little better. We actually maintain some of our CBC acid. They were unable to do that. It's really hard for some of these miners to grow it and extract it. You, one, have to have a really healthy, good plant, and two, you have to extract it slowly, all of which starts with seed, and it's more expensive. So what it cost us to make our CBD versus what it cost that other company is astronomically different in terms of how we did that. And then I also wanted to bring up four of the other top 5 biggest companies selling full spectrum CBD real quick. If you can see my screen, You just see non-detectable all over the place for a lot of this stuff. This company's okay. They've got smaller amounts of some of the other minor cannabinoids. This one is I think this is CBD MD. They actually have an okay product. I would say go ahead and buy that one. This one is another huge company. This bottle was actually to the left of the one I took the picture of at the store. Awful. Don't ever buy it. This is like Gaia Herbs or whatever. These people have a really good reputation as well. I think that's how you say it, Gaia or whatever. They sell lots of stuff. This is awful CBD, guys. I mean, it's not good. And then Pure Hemp Botanicals, another huge one. They are once again okay. So like they've got some of the stuff, but it's still not great. They have no CBDA. Anytime the acid's not preserved, you can go ahead and assume terpenes aren't really going to be there in abundance, and either the product wasn't good to begin with, or the extraction process was not good. So
Now I understand, Peter, why you were so adamant about the education of CBD rather than just sending a promo code to the CMT community and hoping for the best, because I have never met anyone so well informed about this subject matter, specifically for CBD. And I know Angie is also a great Roulier is a great CMT cannabis advocate and expert. She also wrote Pot for the People, so I want to give you a shout out. But I see now I have such more of an appreciation for how you both have approached this this product, and obviously you have so many whys, whether it's your children or your parents, or just for your own value and benefit of your own personal journeys. It's really compelling to see how beneficial this product can be. So if we're looking at, I know we have a few people here asking questions, and I want to make sure we get to them. Um, Take us through how somebody, well, one, what the promo code would be, so I'll put that in the chat while we're talking. And two, how would someone approach starting to use and incorporate and kind of test the CBD oil for themselves?
yeah, so I put a promo code in today. Just if you type in HNF30, it should work all capitals or lowercase. If it doesn't work lowercase, do all capitals HNF30, and that'll give you a 30% discount off any of our products. And in terms of approaching, this last slide's a good one to do for that as well. You have enzymes that do metabolize other drugs. So it's grapefruit rule. Like if your doctor hasn't told you the grapefruit rule with something that you're eating, this CYP 450 family of liver enzymes, it's the same one that they break down grapefruit. So your doctor might tell you not to eat your grapefruit before you take your blood pressure medication or something like that. When it comes to CBD, if you are on other medications, I would just do them at opposite times of the day, like either morning or evening. I honestly, and I've run this by two doctors, and I'm not a doctor, so I can never make medical claims or anything like that. But my mom is on a couple of drugs that interact with CBD, and she just uses the CBD with them. It doesn't really matter. You might get more of whatever drug you're taking in your system, but it needs to be pointed out. So that's the first starting point, is if you're on something else, kind of figure out, I would maybe do it at a different time of the day than when you take your drug. Those liver enzymes will be back and working by the end of the day. Or within, call it 5-6 hours. I get scared to give you a time frame on that. But
There is no alcohol in our CBD.
Alcohol?
Question just came up if there's alcohol in it. There's no alcohol in our CBD.
No, we used a slow method CO2 process, low heat, as low a pressure as we could, which is why we preserved multiple acids and all of our terpenes and all that stuff. So it's like the definition of small batch. So if you want to just run with that thing through an extraction machine, you can run it through and end up with CBD with very little of the full spectrum part of it. Ours was we did not use ethanol alcohol, and that all comes off anyways. Even if somebody does use alcohol for their extraction, if they do it right, it's typically not in there either. So even if they've done it that method, there won't be alcohol in there. So if you're using it for sleep, I recommend 2,000 milligrams. Try a full dropper, like a half hour before bed or an hour before bed, and see what that does to you. Everybody is different. Dosing is the hardest thing in the world to figure out. If you're using it for pain, I would say start with 1,000 milligram, try a dropper in the morning. If you don't notice anything, you can use 3 droppers in a day. We like to work with people at first because, once again, our first goal of our mission is to kind of get people um, better or more healthy or on a better path, for life in general. And essentially, we will work we work with like trying to figure out, okay, if this person needs to use more of it, we know like one bottle is only a 30-day supply, but we would rather you mess around with it and figure out what works for you, because oftentimes a lot of what happens is your brain, the neuroplasticity of your brain is something that's under a constant study these days. You can start creating new pathways within your brain, and then you might need less CBD. So we have like 3 people now who started off on 2,000 milligrams, and then now they're good with 1,000 milligrams, but they needed the 2,000 to start. And now they're using like 1,000 milligram, and they're even like doing a half or every other day now, which I can say from some studies they've done on measuring inflammation in the body, you got to use it for like 30 days straight minimum. I would say like 90 days straight personally, but like at least at a minimum 30 days straight. And if you stop taking it for like anything longer than about 5 to 6 days, you can start to see inflammation markers returning for dogs in particular. They found that in a study. It's harder to measure in humans just from markers, but the big thing too about CBD that like I just have to say it while I have people on here is like cortisol and stress and anxiety are things that like lead to disease. Like it's if you can keep those down through whatever method, whether it's meditation or learning how to breathe or just figuring out how to not have it. But we're constantly bombarded in a way we never have been before with technology, with phones, with stuff, and our bodies don't know how to respond to that. And cortisol leads to disease. So, if you're a bodybuilder, cortisol leads to muscle loss. If you're whatever you're doing, when you have too much of that and you go into fight or flight, that is just bad. So that is one thing that is like we really on the backside of things, like whatever you're trying to go for, whether it's pain reduction, sleep, or whatever, like getting the cortisol and getting your body into a more relaxed state all the time is like of utmost importance in terms of you having success for the next day and the day after that and the day after that. Long-winded answer, I know that all of mine seem to be, but it's really impossible to know somebody's starting dose. I would say for sleep, definitely go with 2,000. For anything else, you can try and start with 1,000 and see how it works and go up for there. But mess with it because everybody's
Each one of
different.
our
And
bottles will actually last a month long as well. Each one of them is scheduled to go 1 month in length.
yeah, I'm not a BS salesman, unless you're having to take like 2 or 3. If you saw the bioavailability slide, if you have to take like, there's times where I take 6 droppers to go to bed. Like if I was like super stressed, 6 of them, I take 6 because I know it's safe and I know it's going to knock me out and I need to sleep. So if you're doing that, then your supply is only going to last you, 8 days. It's not going to last you like a full 30 days or whatever. But we want to know where that sits. But even though I took 6 for sleep one night, I'm actually at a point now where I use less and less than I used to at first. So it actually goes in the opposite direction. Like I was really high at first, and I've gone lower. So it seems to work that way a lot, actually, because once your body starts talking and gets into homeostasis and your system is supported, it starts doing things on its own. And it's kind of crazy how that works. Like your body wants to get itself balanced. And so once you start balancing it and it gets balanced, it tends to stay balanced easier, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Would anybody like to ask any questions? I know we're coming to the end here, and I want to give anyone an opportunity. So maybe You can raise your hand in the chat, or if you want to just unmute yourself and ask your question.
We're happy to stay as long as anybody needs. We'll be here for as long as there's questions going. We love dialogue and we love to chat.
Yeah, I dropped your website email in the chat, and the website as well, organoleaffarms.com and info@organoleaffarms.com. So, oh, is there a support staff to help ask questions after this webinar? So can they reach out to you at that email there and then speak to you directly?
Yes, it's Ryan and me.
Yep.
You'll get both of us. And
Yeah.
we've decided at some point that once if we reach if we can get to 100 subscribers, we're gonna start like a Discord as opposed to like email blasts, where because we've noticed that with a lot of CMT people, like support is like a huge thing as well. And we like everybody kind of sharing stories because that like helps everybody. So we might start a Discord at some point as well. But for right now, yeah, Ryan and I are making ourselves. I can tell you right now, I spent the last 2 weeks, probably close to almost 20 hours the past 2 weeks on the phone or even texting with some people that had reached out and answering questions.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. That's very rare type of service. We had a question here from Linda. She said this is very helpful. Does it help with burning neuropathic pain?
So I
So
can talk to this. It does help a little bit with my burning pain. It doesn't completely eliminate it, but by taking it, it does reduce it. It's
Mm,
enough to where I'm able to get to sleep. So
okay.
it doesn't completely eliminate it, but it does reduce it.
And I guess it depends on your pain level where you're starting from.
Absolutely.
Do you ship
yeah, if, if
international?
if your pain level is high, start with a high dose.
Mhm.
If it doesn't make you sleepy, even try it a couple times a day at first for a while is what I would say for that because we've had that same question and we've had people trying to tackle that same problem,
Yeah.
and we've been successful and we've been almost successful. So like we're still messing around with it.
Okay. And then as far as international shipping, is that something you do as well?
Yeah, I will probably ship it internationally. There's extra compliance hoops that we have to jump through. Where would that be going to
Get somebody
from
from
that question?
Australia, as far away as
Austra
possible.
Austra Australia. I will get back to you on that. I think so. There's some more stringent rules on shipping it internationally. I kind of have to check Australia's rules on it. Australia actually has been one of the more strict countries with certain things, but I don't know about this. So I'd have to check. As long as we don't have to get some ISO compliance or something like that. If we have to spend because some of those compliance things are just you have to pay for them. So if we have to spend like $5,000 to be ISO certified to send it out there, then we probably would not do it. But we will do everything in our power to ship it to Australia if it's within our means.
Someone else from Canada, a little closer.
Canada might be easier.
Okay. And then Linda asked, is there a dosing chart? Does that something on your website? Does it come with the product when someone orders?
Yeah, so dosing chart would be we can't ever identify everybody's bodies is like just the physiologicalness. So it's just everybody's different. So it's like sometimes it doesn't even have to do with like weight or male, female. Um, just to give you like an example, like I process caffeine really quickly. My sister doesn't. So I can drink coffee like right before bed. She can't. It's just one of those things where our bodies are different. So the level, and also there's some doctors out there that talk about endocannabinoid deficiency, and it's hard to know where somebody sits with that. And I don't even know if that's a real thing or not, but doctors are talking about it. So like, if somebody may have that, if it's a real thing, because like I said at the beginning, like there's some more we don't know about this than we do know. So I don't even with all of my propping it up like the greatest thing on earth. We still need way more education ourselves. We need more studies. We need more, focused stuff. But we have seen a complete both sides of the pendulum when it comes to dosing. So it's impossible really for us. We just have had success saying start with if your pain, if it's for sleep or your pain levels are high, start with 2,000 milligrams and start with the full dropper. If your pain levels are a little bit lower and you're not necessarily, you sleep good at night, then we say go ahead with the 1,000 milligram and do a dropper of that every day, and just pick a time that you think would be good for you for that. And that's kind of where we start with everybody. So um, pets are a little bit easier to dose than humans, but we don't have any. I don't think we had one on our website at one point. We took it down, I believe, because it was like we just can't figure it out. It's different for everybody.
Yeah. And then someone asked, can you explain a little bit more about why the nano delivery of CBD is not a good thing?
Okay, so nano, if I could pull it up. So there was a doctor that put out a big long paper on nano technology, and consensus wise amongst the medical doctors, I think what you would find, and I, of course, I trash talk medical doctors too, but is this exists primarily in the supplement industry. It should exist more in like the figuring out cancer industry, just because these particles are so small. Like you can put them on your skin and they can go through your skin and get into your blood. You put them in your body, they're smaller than your cells. So we don't have any safety information long term over like a 20 or 30-year period on nano that shows that you don't turn into some mutant in 30 years or something like that, because you're putting stuff in your body that's smaller than your own cells. So as of right now, if you were to talk to medical doctors, they would say that's not a good idea. Like, especially for CBD, like why do you want CBD in your body? And it's littler than your cells. Like, what does that ultimately end up doing to your body? We don't know. Like, we have no idea. Nano CBD just came out like within, since the Farm Bill came, and it's primarily a marketing tactic, because what we do in a competitive society is something gets legalized like this or something new comes out and the cart gets put in front of the horse every single time. It's like, why can't we just stick with something we haven't had for like the last 70 years that we've been wanting? Instead, we have to now make it nano. We have to figure out some other weird way to deliver it into your body. It's all marketing is what it is. Even though, yes, at the end of the day, you can claim I got 100% bioavailability. So now I can actually take smaller doses of CBD. From what I've seen, they still charge you the same amount almost. And so it's like, if that's the case, then let's make it cheaper, because I know a nano facility in Utah. I looked into it. I went there. I checked it out, talked to the guys. It's not something I haven't looked into, but I ultimately decided after talking with our two board members who are both doctors, is we were like, well, that's crazy. Like literally we're like crazy, crazy, crazy. Like would never do it. Would you put that? No. I wouldn't do it to my body, so I don't recommend it to anybody else.
It's the first time I've heard of it. I know I thought maybe it might be close to like micro dosing, but it seems like it's a whole other just
Yeah, no, microdosing is,
particles are the particles are nano in the same.
yeah, the particles are nano. So like microdosing is totally different. That's
Yeah.
just taking like like
Small
micro, yeah. Yeah,
every
that would be a fun one. I'd love to talk about microdosing too, but it's just the particles are so tiny that they are literally smaller. Like in an overall scheme of things, we are actually just walking bacteria. We have more bacteria on us, in us, than anything else. Like we are primarily made up of bacteria, which is kind of funny. So like, are we humans or are we bacteria? Like we're really bacteria, but we do have brains, reason, we can think and do all these other things. But you start putting things in your body, some of the nano, it's smaller than bacteria. I mean, so what are like, we just do not know what the long-term effects of that are.
Let me just make that. Yeah, no, that's it's very that makes a lot of sense. Any other questions? And I wanted to share your website real quick. We had a few people excited to try out your CBD. I'm definitely one of them. I've been taking CBD for a while, and for me, it definitely helps my I have CMT 4A. It helps with my fatigue and my energy levels, and just stress as well, kind of a nice bonus. I don't have the neuropathic pain though, and I don't have um, any other type of real like everyday pain, but I know a lot of people do. And that's especially what I'm super excited about is the potential for people to help reduce their pain to a point where they can start to just, enjoy life a little bit more. And because we know this is a really difficult disease to live with a lot of times, as I'm sure you can relate to, Ryan. Um, so you do have some topicals as well on your website, and this is
Yeah.
this is the product here that we're basically discussing. You have your your report here and all of the information, and then the different flavors for each one.
Yep. You just pick the flavors over there. Yep. Yeah. There's lemon, orange, mint, non-flavored, and then you can choose your milligram amount right there.
Yeah.
And you just pick 1,000 or 2,000. And one thing Ryan and I always address is our bottles, like you're gonna get a hint of the hemp taste with ours. We opted for that on purpose because we wanted our product to be real. One thing that I knock on Charlotte's Web is they went from a 2,000 milligram down to a 1,700 milligram. Reason being was for taste purposes because they made a chocolate flavored one, which on our next batch we might mess around with the taste. If you once you start doing it, I don't think it tastes bad, but we can't fit enough like natural flavor stuff in there and keep it at a 2,000 milligram, if that makes sense. So Charlotte's Web actually dropped from 2,000 milligram to I think a 1,700 milligram. And I talked with somebody over there and they're like, yeah, we had to do that for taste. And I'm like, all right, well, we haven't done that. Like we want it to work more than anything. So um, most people actually say they don't mind the taste. So, but I just bring it up like you're going to get some hemp taste with ours, and you actually know you're getting hemp product when you can taste the hemp too.
And then for the topical cream, is that something you would also recommend somebody start with, or how would they use that in kind of in addition to the oil or separately or
Yeah, so for the topicals, I didn't talk a ton about that. I did mention our board member, who, by the way, has cancer and has got real bad news and is fighting for his life right now. So it's going to be sad if he's not with us here in the near future. But he's our skin guy. We almost did not do topicals just because your skin is your first line of defense against a whole lot of things. So we didn't want to make anything that could penetrate through the skin because we just kind of don't feel like that's part of our values. And a lot of people that do that are I don't know. We don't believe in it. But what we did find after we made it was that we started to notice that you have a lot of CB2 receptors that are actually up in some of those upper layers of the dermis of your skin. And so we have actually had some really it surprised me. I almost didn't want to even make this, but we actually had such good results from people that it is more for your acute spots. So like hands, back, knee, like if you have an area that's really causing you pain, I actually now will use the salve with the tincture. I think anything that you can get into your system to break the blood barrier is the best. So I would go for that burst over buying the salve. But the salve, a lot of people have been kind of like, I still have the stigma about CBD and its pot or whatever. And some people are worried about drug tests because you could possibly fail a drug test. I never have, but Ryan has. So it's kind of hit or miss. If you do, it's not going to be immediately. It'll be months down the road or maybe a year after using this stuff. But
And I
for
take a
people,
lot of the product as well, along with like Peter was explaining how much he takes. I take similar to that. Another thing to keep in mind with the salve is that it's very hard to work out. So people with CMT hands, just know that you're gonna have to work it out because we wanted to keep it natural once again. So there's not any fillers in there or anything. It is a natural substance. So it's a little bit hard. So you got to put your finger in it and work it out. And then once you start working it, it comes easily.
John?
yeah, so it's a natural beeswax that we used with olive oil, so it's like all natural. So at room temperature, it can be a little bit hard. Once again, on purpose, I'm gonna just hold this up to my screen for people to see. I picked this up at the place I stretch at. Okay, this has 10 milligrams of CBD in it. And this is a lot of what's out there to put on your skin. If the ingredients list is too small to read, but it is essentially just a bunch of um, essential oils is essentially what this is. And it's marketed with 10 milligrams of CBD, and they charge you like an arm and a leg for this. And this will do nothing for you. So our salve has 1,000 milligrams in it of CBD on purpose, because anytime you're rubbing CBD on your skin, do not ever buy anything that's got tons of essential oils in it, because that's what all its fillers are. Especially like if it's got alcohol and like other things in it, like the more fillers, the less CBD is going to be in there. And if you are going to rub something on your skin, just because your skin is so hard to penetrate through, you have got to have a high amount of CBD. So like 1,000 is the minimum, and that's where we start with and stayed. If people continue to like love it, we will make a 2,000 or more one, because we have had people with back issues who have come back and said that they only want that. They don't want to take it. It just is working for their back. So we've kind of gone back and forth on that, but don't ever get a CBD product unless like minimum 1,000 milligrams, and look for the fillers, because they're going to put other stuff in there. And I know a lot of people with CMT, I've heard of take arnica, or some other type of thing like that. Arnica actually has a part of it of what's in that plant is a poison, which is kind of why it helps you. Over time, that can damage tissue and be bad for you. At first, I didn't understand that until our board member explained it to me. But he was like, no, he's like, do not ever have anybody taking arnica over and over and over. It's okay once or twice, or like if you play sports and like a couple of times, like a year, or maybe with a couple of times every few months, you're putting that on. He's like, repeated use of that. He's like, I've seen horrible tissue damage. And once again, that's just going to kick you out of homeostasis, because you're going to create an inflammation spot. And now your body is trying to figure out how to get back into working order. So ours is totally natural, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. It's got to melt on, but those are some of the things for salves. Like, don't ever buy some crap like this.
We had a great testimonial from Stuart. I don't know if he's comfortable jumping on camera real quick, but he said he's tried several brands of CBD over the years with no result, and he started taking
Oh
organic.
yeah, Stuart. Hey, buddy.
I don't know if he wants to unmute himself. Are you there, Stuart?
How about now?
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
Yeah, I
maybe.
was on just real quick, on the call about 4 months ago with both Peter and Ryan, and first heard about the product and got on board, started using it. And like I said when I dropped in the chat, I've tried other brands, other products over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years with no results. And once I started using theirs, it's a much better product. Yeah, I think it's superior to a lot. Peter's been great about with questions. He, like you said, he'll text you, he texts me. We go back and forth about different things. He helped me with the dosing. So I highly recommend it. At least give it a shot and see if you can get some benefit. But like I said, it takes some time. It took me about a month or so. And once I got onto it, sustained it, my sweet spot is 75 mLs per. I do twice a day, one at night, one in the morning. And I will say the only side effect I had was some upset stomach for about a week. But that went away. So if you have anything like that, if you just kind of stick to it, it'll work itself out for the most part, typically. So yeah, give it a shot. It's definitely benefited me, neuropathic pain, better mood. I've been able to drop my nortriptyline about 25 milligrams since I've been on it. Still working on reducing that.
Incredible. There's nothing better than hearing a testimonial like that. And I think just as a overarching theme, when, the transparency and like the one-on-one that you offer, Peter and Ryan, to, your customers slash patients, that speaks volumes, because most brands do not do that. They hide behind the label. They don't interact with their customers. They're not in it for the right reasons. And obviously, that is not the case here. So, Stuart, I'm so glad that you're able to find some benefits. And how long ago did you start? You said 4 months ago?
It's been about 4 months since I've been on it, yeah.
That's
And
great.
I had actually I don't know, 3 weeks ago, didn't get the shipment in time before my last bottle ran out, and I went about 10 days without it, and I could tell the difference, the drop off and mood and pain increase. So, it goes to show me that it was working. There was absolutely some benefit there.
It's great to hear. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing
Yeah,
that.
thanks so much, Stuart. Appreciate it. We love having you as a customer. And just so you know, we have switched to UPS. We will never use the United States Post Service ever again for shipping CBD.
Yeah.
We're 100% UPS or FedEx. Believe it or not, out of 100 shipments that we've made, almost close to 20 of them did either not make it there, disappeared, or got stuck somewhere with USPS. Crazy.
Maybe the word is just out that you guys have such a great product that people are stealing it.
Well, I'm almost 100%
Taking it for
certain our
themselves.
mailman stole our last one. I know he did because it has a tracking number on it and it never ended up anywhere, but it was in my mailbox.
Oh, CBD oil. This looks good. Let me try this. Well, thank you, Stuart, again. Anyone else
Yeah,
have
thanks, Stuart.
any
Yeah,
final
no problem.
questions?
Thank you, Stuart.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Last call for questions. I did mention in the chat that we are recording this and this will be shared on our cannabis section of our website. And we'll be putting together a nice little overview with the links and the promo code and where you can reach out to Peter and Ryan for anyone who's trying to keep track of all the information. I know it was a lot, but we just want to make sure you'll be getting that. You could share it, watch it again. Anyone else want to unmute themselves and ask any last questions before we wrap up? No? All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. This has been incredibly informative. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing your passion, your story, all of the incredible work you're doing. If anyone is coming to the CMT Summit, which I hope many of you are, Peter and Ryan will be there for a good portion of it. They're going to be setting up a table there. They're going to be sharing more of their products, answering any questions. You can get a little bit more of a deeper conversation with them about their products and any questions that you may have. So we hope to see you there. If you want more information on the summit, go to cmtsummit.org. It's also linked in the chat, and it's going to be a really powerful and exciting weekend. So we hope you'll be joining us there. And yeah, thank you so much again, Peter and Ryan, for all the work that you're doing and for sharing this really valuable information with all of us.
Yeah, and we
Thank you.
thank you all for sharing your time with us. We know time is valuable.
Well, this is a good use of our time for sure. Well, thanks again. Everyone have a good night. Keep us posted if you have a great, um, testimonial and you find the products helping you, share with us and let us know. We can continue sharing those testimonials with everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
So much.